Today we're talking about how I came to the knowledge of Christ, how I'd talk to God, walk with God, and hear from God, right? Pretty cool stuff. And all of this would happen in the year of 2024. But it wasn't always like that. It was not always like that. A couple years back, it was, I wouldn't be saying all of that. Now, I'm not going to lie. Low-key wanted to gatekeep this video. I did not want to be sharing all of this right now. But I just think for like future videos, it does make sense to have a lot of context, which will help build out the future videos. So I guess I'll let you guys in on the lowdown of, getting to know God, like for real, you know? So let's get to it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Chaos Podcast. My name is Katlaho. This is a podcast which makes us chaos. Yes, sir. Cool. So we're back. 2020. Let's take it there. 2020 was a weird year, right? COVID year. So that, I think it's around that time I'd make the kind of decision that I'd read my Bible from front till back, right? Kind of thing. That's all the context we get for 2020. It was just a weird year. I thought about it. 2021 was my final year of undergrad, right? And so it was academically it was challenging. And I remember throughout the year we had worked super well, super hard. A friend of mine, it's called Spioyo. Yeah, Spioyo and I we pushed through that year. I remember we got stuck on campus. We were locked in one of the campus buildings late at night because we were studying and they didn't think anyone was there, so we got locked in. We had to call an emergency number to get out. And then another time we got kicked out of the library. So there was just a lot. That year we were just really pushing, man. It was tough. But come the time for finals, and I just didn't have the desire to study. Now don't get me wrong, I don't think I've ever had the desire to study, unless it talks about the Bible. But generally, you get close enough to the time of the test, and then you're like, okay, cool, let me do what I need to do, right? So up until this point, it was the first I'd ever have this feeling of not wanting to read my books more and understand things, for the first time ever, right? Throughout primary, high school, and even varsity, this was the only time, right? Even with the difficult subjects, never liked studying, but test is coming up, you're gonna get to it. And this time was just different. I didn't have the desire or even thinking about the outcome or the potential outcome. I was not moved. I just didn't want to. I did not want to for the life of me. It felt like I couldn't, to be fair. And I remember it was such a weird feeling, and I was a little bit nervous by the fact that I felt this way. And I remember I called my brother and I'm like, Elare, then instead, funny enough, I'm gonna summarize this. This was an internal conflict and battle and conversation for hours, but I'll summarize it where instead I'd end up just kind of making a deal with God. A deal, right? Or the deal was that he'd get me through, I'd pass that year, and then I would start the podcast, or I'd start a podcast at the time. And that was the deal. that was it. And lo and behold, I'd get through the year. I'd pass the year, and that was cool. That was great. And then we get into 2022, right? Yeah. The reason why I suppose I'd said I wanted to start the podcast, because it might sound weird in that the promises that God will make me pass and I'll do something that I want to do. It might sound weird, but it was more so from a place of just using opportunities and just doing the things that we want to do and not being a scaredy cat. And then I think prior to that moment, I really thought about the podcasting for quite some time, a long time. So I was okay, cool, I'll do it. Let me pass. And then we passed. So 2022 comes through. Worst year of my life, actually. I was about to lie. Worst year of my life by far. Beginning of 2022, I was looking for apartments, and then I'd find an apartment to stay in as the academic year started, and then it was back to school. This was my post-grad year, and then June, July, I'd have to go intern, and the internship was actually really cool. So all of this was sponsored by the company. The company that was sponsoring my post-grad is a company that I would intern for, and then I'd go and work for them, kind of thing. And so it was interesting in that like I had all the things that like a varsity gent might want, right? Like I'd get my own place, which was really kind of them. Like they didn't have to, so I'd get my own place, and I was used to having like flatmates, and now I've got my own place to myself. Really cool. Gym was close by, the restaurants were close by. Like in Hatfield, if you live in a certain area, like things are very like compact and neat. It's like Hatfield was really built around students, so it's like a really dope place to be. And so everything was good. And I remember even like class in postgrad, I only had one class per day instead of like having a long schedule. So it was really, really good. But I hated it. It was the worst year of my life. I did not. Awful year. Awful year. And I can't even tell you why. Well, yeah, uncomfortable conversations, but it's Alpha Omega, so we do this. This is not off brand for us. It'd be the year where I'd just be like really depressed, man. Like I'm talking go see psychologist kind of depressed. It wasn't great. And I think for a while I had just attributed it to being tired, in that 2021 was demanding, and then 2022 was just like busy finding a place, sorting out things, starting with school, interning, going back to school. And I would attribute it to being tired, but it just didn't seem right, man. And so I hated it. Now that year as well, a good friend of mine, let's call her Umatongwe. Yeah, Umatongwe. She gave me this really cool like Christian devotions book, right? That I'd read pretty much every day. And it was really cool. And I think this was like very small, like tiny seeds of like, where I'd end up going with God. For as a birthday gift that she got me, the devotions book. It was really cool, and I'd read it every day. The thing is though, right, I still didn't quite know God at the time, and so like it was a very, I'm not sure if transactional is the right word, but like I thought I just had to do it and then I'm done kind of thing. So I would like read my devotional book. Okay, cool. If I need to pray, close, and I'm done. And I move. Like, in other words, I did a lot of talking and seeing and whatever and reading, but never spending time. If I'm to run that back, a lot of doing, no relationship. And so that would kind of happen throughout the rest of that year. And I remember this year was awful, man. Like I'm hating it. I'm depressed. It would just show up in like I just had no energy to do anything ever. Like I did not want to do. Well, I wanted to do it a lot, but I didn't have the energy to do anything. Like getting up was a mission. Going to class was a mission. Like just everything was difficult for some reason. Going to gym, I'd end up not going at some point in time. Everything was just difficult, man. It was like, I felt like such a drag to do normal things. Normal things became so difficult. And so that'd go on for quite some time. Now, as like we reach the peak of this, I'd get to something I hate to give it a name, but also me being me, I'm gonna give everything a name. I have Blackout Day. Blackout Day was a day where, well, it's in the name, Blackout Day. I lived that day and I couldn't tell you what happened. Like the day after, I couldn't tell you what I did the day before. Where if I'm to summarize, well, here's actually what I remember from that day. I woke up, I blinked, I'm in the shower, I blinked, I'm on the way to class, I blinked, I'm in class, I blinked, I'm on the road, almost get run over by a car, I blink, I'm at my place, and that was that. I can't tell you who I spoke to that day, what I was doing, who I walked with. I can't tell you any of those details because there were just gaps in my memory. Like that day felt like it happened like this. And that was just like really getting to the peak of like that depression, the peak of just feeling dead. I'd say feeling dead. And so like, yes, we call it depression maybe. But I'm of the opinion, informed opinion, that these physical things are a manifestation or a reflection of a spiritual state. And so like I was just dead inside, right? And because remember, I was reading the devotions, yes, but then I still didn't have a relationship with God. And so what's happening is like, okay, cool, I'm in this state where things are rough and things are not fun, and it's like what do I choose to do? Is it God or is it girls? Because remember the first uncomfortable Alpha Omega episode about lust and this and that, and so like when things get difficult, like what am I like running to? And so is it God or is it girls? And so like logically, and even in that state, I'd be like, no, it's God. Of course it's God. And so I'd go to God. But in my going to God, right, like I'm not going with this open heart necessarily. I'm going with my, here's a better way to put it. I'm going with preconceived notions of who God is. And so I can't like tap in to really understand who God is because I already have an idea of him. I've already compartmentalized, and that logically I understand that God creates the heavens and the earth. Logically I understand that, like he's in charge of everything, he knows everything logically, but no relationship, and that I don't know how to approach it. Instead I've compartmentalized the creator of the earth to say, this is what he does. He oversees the big things. I'll come through, he'll listen to my prayer if he chooses to. If I do a good thing, maybe he'll do a good thing back. That's kind of like the transactional relationship I have with God at that point in time. And so no relationship, just a being, right? And so in approaching this being, like even then the approach is like half-hearted, and I'm not getting the results, right? Like it's really transactional. Like I'm approaching this being, and I'm like, I'm reading my devotion, I'll read like the word of the day on my Bible app, and then like it just wasn't working for me. Whereas the girls was different. Like, like I approach this person, there's like a bit of excitement, like talking to someone, and then like getting involved with them. It's like, okay, this is exciting. And then it's like this like quick like euphoria, or like this like short-lived euphoria. And then if anything, I don't know about you other guys, but I just feel like worse afterwards. Like what am I doing? Like this is such a waste of time. Blah 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 blah. And so it's just awful, man. And so just going deeper and deeper into that, I remember then I'd be like, cool, let's start the podcast. Now I hadn't had a date as to when the podcast would start, but in my June, July, when I did my first internship, that money that I had from then, I'd buy all my studio equipment. So the mics, the lights, that's it, the mics and the lights. Not the same mics now. There's been a few things I've bought since. The only thing that's remained from that first purchase is actually the bright lights. That's the only thing that stayed from that first purchase. But yeah, I'd buy those things, and then I think like sometime in September or leading up to September, I'd be like, cool, let me record on this day. And I remember that day, one of my good friends, Bongingosi, he had a football game that day. I'm like, cool, let me go support. This is my gent, this is my guy. So I'm like, cool, let me go support bro. So the plan was get up super early, set up my things, record, and then after go watch his football game. The day came, got up super early, did not set up my things. I felt anxious, I felt awful, I felt weird, I felt uncomfortable, I felt nervous, I felt scared, and I just didn't. And I'd end up going to my friend's football game because I said that I would. And I came back and I remember just like cried because I'm like, I felt like such a failure. That I couldn't do such a simple thing to like just record and whatever. Like I felt like such a failure, man. Especially given that like, I mean, for years I'd been thinking about the podcast thing for years. And so I'd finally make the decision, I'd buy the equipment, and I'm just like, it wasn't even an thing. I was just like scared, man. And I remember just crying. Like I was in bed just crying for quite some time. And then one of my friends would like come through, like, hey, by the way, I'm outside, like, can you just open up and come see me? And I was like so confused, like what, like why are you here, what's going on? Said friend would come through and be like, oh, here are the McDonald's fries, by the way. And I was like, what are you talking about? Right, then I remember for like the longest time in varsity, I was like obsessed with McDonald's chips, like obsessed. So whenever I'd help people, like whatever, with an assignment, with schoolwork, with anything really, like I'd always be like, okay, cool, if you're gonna make it square, just give me McDonald's chips. And it was like a half-hearted thing. Like it was a joke. Like I didn't mean it. It was like a 90% joke in that like I didn't expect anything from anyone. And then the 10% is like, well, listen, like I'm not gonna say no, at that point in time. And this friend of mine comes to like, hey, like here you go, here are the McDonald's fries. And I'm like, bruh, like this is mad. I was like, yeah, thanks. And I don't know how it happened. We ended up actually speaking about the podcast. Now at that point in time, the only people I'd spoken to about the podcast were maybe my brother, maybe like I was very, like there's certain things I just didn't share, and so I'm surprised to this day that I would share this with this person. And she was like, no, it's cool, like let's do it, let's record. And I was like, there's no way. And that's actually when we do the Case podcast episode 0, funny enough, which was just like a trial and error episode. It wasn't a serious episode. But yeah, like just that moment was like really special, man. So I remember that very well. And then things would change like dramatically. Remember that whole tired, lack of energy thing that we were speaking about? Changed like this. All of a sudden, I'm getting up extra early because, I was editing the podcast episode, and so I need to make sure that it renders properly. I need to check on the laptop. Next day I'm getting up even earlier because I need to upload the video to YouTube, and my Wi-Fi is slow, but the campus Wi-Fi is quick. And then like certain things I would just like my mental would kind of recover in that I would think differently. Like, okay, cool. If I'm getting up, let's say, I don't know, an hour or 2 hours earlier, might as well make it 2.5 hours or 3 hours earlier so I can like go back to gym and cook and this and this and that. Like things were just, like coming back, like things were working out, right? Fun fact, when I was going to the psychologist, she actually said like, hey, like how about you? Like maybe you should start like watching podcasts. In my head, I'm like, oh, lady, you don't know. I did tell her eventually though. And yeah, things were just changed, man. Things were really good. And like I got into a nice rhythm, and I'd have like friends over as I guess. It was really working out super cool. And I remember we hit 100 subscribers, and my siblings, oh bless them, man, they called me, and I was in the school library not studying. I was uploading another chaos podcast episode. And they were just calling me like, hey, you hit 100, like so proud of you, blah blah blah. It was really nice. It was a video call in the library, right? The place where we were supposed to be quiet, and here I am just like but it was cool. It was really dope. I enjoyed that. But alas, school got even more hectic. It was a very demanding year academically, the most difficult, I'd say. And then yeah, I had to stop doing that for a bit, and yeah, just focus on school, and then thank God we were able to pass, because it was also very difficult. Got through my post-grad year, went back to the company to intern for them in the beginning of the year, to work for them in the beginning of the year. And so I'd go and work for them. And funny enough, the working for them was easier than the interning for them. And I enjoyed the interning for them, by the way. But for some reason, I just couldn't do it. And then once again, we attributed it to the tiredness, because 2022 was a lot. We attributed it to the tiredness for sure. But once again, hindsight, I don't think it was tiredness or fatigue, but that's what we attributed to. And I remember, like, once again, it was easier, but I just, for the life of me, couldn't do it. And that even the work that I had to do, like, it wasn't a matter of I was incompetent or I didn't understand. I understood very well, but just like the idea of like just doing extra research, the idea of going on this side and like digging for information, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Not from a braggy or bratty point of view, right? Like not from a I'm super privileged and I can do whatever I want, but from a like I'm really trying, but I can't. Like I can't do this. Like it's so difficult for me. Like I'm dragging my feet, man. And yeah, eventually I'd be like, listen, like I can't, and have a conversation with the conversation with the company. Everyone's like, cool, we understand, say less. And that was that. And then went back home, went back to doing chaos and this and this and that. And then in that second half of the year of 2023, I'd like really hone my craft in terms of like the visuals. So like I'd get better at like thumbnails and like, graphic design. I'd get a lot better at editing. I think my best to date, so today's like August 23rd, I think. August 23rd, 2025. My best like editing that has been out in the internet is probably the episode that I did with one of my best friends, Ty, because I really got better at editing, and it took me a long time to get that video done. But like I was honing my craft, and I ended up thinking like maybe I want to be like a video editor, maybe I want to be a graphic designer. I know now that I definitely don't want to do those as a job, but like there was once again this new life in being creative. Like there was something that was happening, man. And so yeah, that was happening, and I'd also start like reading my Bible a bit more as well, just trying to understand certain things in 2023. And it would go on, it was going very well, but also weird things were happening that same year where like, look, things break and wear and tear is a thing, But it's weird when almost at the same time everything's breaking. There's car parts that are not working. There's electrical appliances that are not working. There's, a fridge. There's a this. There's a like just things just stopped working almost all at like around the same time. The garage isn't working. Just weird things are happening, man. The dreams I was having at the time, that deserves another episode. Things were just strange. Things were extremely strange. And I remember I'd go to my friend in Hatfield literally just to go pray, like nothing else. Just let's go pray because things are weird. And even in those conversations, I'd tell her about this decision that I'd made a while back to like read my Bible, even though I wasn't really following on it. But I'd start getting to it, and I remember saying to her like, I'm just gonna read up until Job, man. I'm gonna read up until Job in the Old Testament, and I'll do the New Testament. And the reason for that was just because like I was very upset with God. Like me and my friend Umatong, we would always like joke and say like, I'm fighting God. Like me and God are fighting right now. But that's how I felt. I was very upset with him. I was very upset with how things were going. I was upset with the trajectory of things. I think most so I was upset that I didn't have the same vitality and life that I used to have. Like I used to joke and say like, oh God, like give me back my superpowers. Like I enjoyed just being like a lively person, and like that was gone. And I hated that, and I was praying like over and over, like bring it back, and like nothing. So I was definitely fighting with God. I was not happy with him, not one bit. And so it's also like I'm gonna read the Bible to get to Job. Why? Because even though I hadn't read the book of Job at the time, I knew that guy struggles. That guy goes through a lot, and I'm like, cool, same. I'm gonna read up until Job, then I'll get into the New Testament. And so 2023, I'd continue reading my Bible, not as much as, well, I'd continue reading every once in a while. Let's say in a 7-day week, like at least three times for like 30 minutes or up to even like an hour and a half. And so that would keep happening. And I'm like also honing my craft when it comes to like chaos and all the creative stuff. And then like I've got 2 degrees and I'm at home. And so now everyone's like, okay, well, you need to go get a job. I'm like, okay, cool. I hear you, but I'm working on my portfolio. Then I'll get go get a job, corporate job. I hear you, but I'm working on my portfolio. Get it's like, I started apply for corporate jobs. They weren't coming. It was like very difficult. And then time was going on as well, right? Like time waits for no man, as they say. And so eventually there's this company that a lot of my school friends were working at. I'd asked them about it, and everyone was saying like no. And so at some point in time, I'd eventually ask like all my friends, all the people that I knew about this company. And I think out of like 6 people I asked, I think 5 of them said like, whatever you do, don't come here. This place is awful. From those people, some of them were working at that place, right? And time was going, and like there's all this pressure from home, like go get a job, go get a corporate job. I'm like, guys. And so eventually I didn't apply for this company. I applied to other companies, and eventually I'd applied to this company. And they'd call me in, like a virtual interview. I did not want to go. Anyone that knows me knows that generally, for certain things, not everything, but for certain things, I'm very prepared, and I like to be very organized. Like I'm the type of guy that'll create an Excel spreadsheet just to track like my electricity usage, right? That's not an example. I'm doing this currently. And so this company, there's an interview that comes up. I remember I read about the company 5 minutes before the interview. I asked some of my friends that were there, like, what's up? They sent me like some documents to read. I had to skim through quickly. Right before the interview, I'd like read through what's going on in the website. Cool, get into the interview, which is not something I would normally do for things that I care about. I get into a second interview. I remember, once again, normally organized, right? I remember that day we're running errands, and I knew the interview was that day. I was like, I don't care. And we're running errands with my mom, and we'd like settle at one place for the interview. The internet was bad at this place. And so the interview starts, but it's choppy. So we had to like postpone the interview, and I'm like, oh no, it's postponed. I'm like, I don't care. It was postponed, and then we end up doing another interview, blah, 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 blah. And a time would go on. And, I'm still reading my Bible. Not a lot, but I'm reading my Bible. But we're all reaching the end of 2023. And remember, I'd mentioned that leading up to 2024, like New Year's Day, I'd kind of write down all like my vices, and just like write them down on a piece of paper and just pray to God, like, hey, I want to be delivered from all these things. We spoke about this in Alpha Omega episode 1, the last chat. Yeah. And so 2024 comes, and it was just like the start of the year was just different. I'm reading my Bible a lot more, daily actually. I was reading my Bible every day. I was reading my daily devotions. I was doing that word of the day thing, like all of that coupled. But like I wasn't neglecting one or the other. I was doing all of it. And I was journaling, for myself at the time, and it was really good, man. It was really proper. And time goes on, I'm like, okay, like I just felt like there was, there's excitement about this 2024 year. And that company would get back to me and say, hey, listen, the job you applied for, you didn't get it, but there's another job we'd like for you to like to take, Okay. And everything that happened from that point in time was a drag. Like from that point in time, everything was a drag. I remember I eventually accept the proposition, and I had to take a flight down to Cape Town. I wasn't excited. I didn't want to go. And even though, like now in hindsight, I've got no issues with being pushed to like go for this job, but at the time I didn't want to go, and so I was very spiteful in that I didn't want to go, but I felt like I'm being forced to go, and I was also became so spiteful in that I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go, and like I'm not looking to spend a lot of time with other people. Like I'm looking to go down to the city and then just like make that my new life, and like that's it. It's a fresh start. That's my new life. I'm not coming back. I'm not speaking to anyone. Like I'm cutting everyone off, kind of thing. Like this is me now. Just like being so spiteful, man, and then upset. And yeah, it was just a drag. So now it's like, okay, go to the airport. Okay, I go to the airport. When I say everything felt like a drag, I mean there wasn't excitement for an end goal. It felt like I just had to do the bare minimum to get to the next step. And that, get to the airport, get to the airport. I guess my flight is in such and such terminal. I'll go to the terminal. I guess I have to board the plane. I'll board the plane. The plane lands in Cape Town. I guess I have to get out the plane. I guess I have to go to the terminal. I guess I have to get to the exit. I guess I have to look for the car that's going to fetch me. Like it was that kind of feeling. And I'd get to Cape Town, and I was like, what, let me not be this person. Let me try it. Like be excited for it and have my own experience. And I did try it, and my birthday would come up shortly after, and I did like a whole bunch of events on the day. Also, you get like really cool birthday discounts. And one thing about me, discounts, come on. And so yeah, that would happen. And I'd be like, okay, let's have a positive outlook. And I tried to. And there were small red flags like in the company, like certain things, like certain like messaging and positioning of messaging about like, like you're so lucky to be at this company. It's such a big company. Out of all the people that have applied, you were chosen. You must be like, you're so lucky, you're privileged to even be here in this building. I was like, well, like, are you guys not privileged to have me, kind of thing, right? Like, come on, like small things, but like whatever. And then like after maybe like 2 months of being at that company, I was like, okay, I see why it sucks now. Like I see what people are complaining about. And this was just the beginning. It would get tremendously worse all my days. I think I could speak about this for like 7 hours. So I won't. What I will say is, remember 2024, I started reading my Bible, and I became spiritually numb, or numb to a lot of things, not just spiritually, because that sounds like more extra than it has to be. I just felt numb in life. I would still continue reading my Bible. Did I feel anything from reading my Bible? No. Not at all, but I kept going. Because remember, the point is, let me get to Job. I hate my life right now. I think Job hates his life at some point in time. Let me get to that book of the Bible, and then I'll understand, and then I'll see what I need to do. I just wanted to follow from like chronological order. I don't want to go straight into the book of Job.